Welcome to the first Cricket World Hangout of the new year. Happy 2014 to you. I'm John Pennington in the UK, and I'm joined by Chetan Narula in a rather cold New Delhi back in India. Hello Chetan, hope you're keeping warm.
Hello, John. Yes, trying to keep warm with all this headgear and fat jackets and gloves and everything. So, yeah, very cold, very different from what South Africa was, and really a culture shock when you come back to India from, the calm roads, nice sun. I haven't seen the sun ever since I've landed in Delhi. It's been a week almost, so very, very cold. And yeah, Happy New Year to all our viewers.
Okay, well we've got a few things to get through today. We're going to sort of look back on the South Africa-India tour, looking ahead to New Zealand-India. That's coming up sort of quicker than we think maybe, and then maybe touch upon the Ashes as well. Chetan, the time you spent in South Africa, it must have been a bit of an epic trip. You had the ODI series, there was lots of rain, lots of driving you've touched upon already, a nation in mourning and celebration of the life of Nelson Mandela, an epic test match in Johannesburg. Jacques Kallis announced his retirement. Then we had the Durban game as well, in which he scored a century, and the fine finishes that South Africa put on there. Just if you can, reflect on that sort of couple of weeks spent there following India.
Absolutely, I think if I look back, it's gonna be a huge memory for me as the years go down. Obviously, my first full overseas tour, obviously representing cricket world as well there. Yes, drove quite a bit, around 3,000 kilometers from Johannesburg to Durban, as mentioned. It's a beautiful place to drive, beautiful countryside. The skies were blue, and every possible beauty you can imagine in the wild there. Apart from that, the cricket was good as well. Watching Dale Steyn and company tear up the Indian batsmen in the ODIs, but obviously also watching the Indian batsmen, come back in the Test matches. They were always talking about learning from the ODIs, and probably if they could have had a couple of matches in the build-up to the ODIs, they could have probably turned out in the ODIs a bit better. But that didn't really happen. Considering the calendar is really shrunk nowadays, and obviously the whole issue between BCCI and CSA, that was a bit of a dampener. Would have preferred a longer tour, maybe a couple T20s as well, and maybe a third test, if not the T20s, if not any extra ODIs. Cape Town is a lovely place to watch Test cricket. But can't really complain. 2 Test matches, as you mentioned. Yes, great Test match. That first one in Johannesburg, probably the greatest draw that's been played out ever. I'm not really sure I agree with what Dale Steyn and Vernon Philander decided, when they were just 8 runs away, 2 overs to go. But again, it's very easy to decide from the boundary line. I thought it was stupid, or, you can use the word choke again for South Africa. 2 overs away, 8 runs to get. India would have been very, very happy to escape with a draw, but they really did well to come back in that last hour of that particular match. When things were really just going away from them. I thought Mohammad Shami not bowling for that 34 over spell between the 1 hour post lunch and 1 hour, post tea. That 34 over spell, I thought that was a real disappointment from the Indian perspective. If Shami could have gotten a couple breakthroughs there, because he was the most dangerous bowler in that particular Test match, so maybe could have changed a bit. But otherwise, from that particular Test match, the way the Indian batsmen, the way they left the ball, the way they, scored their runs, targeting areas, picking out areas from which they have to score runs, and then when on the third day's play, when Virat Kohli and Pujara were in, and the ball was not really doing a lot, and South Africa were a bowler short, they scored 170 runs in one session. That was great batting, especially. You see Pujara's second tour, he scored 50 runs in 3 innings. In the first tour in 2010, Virat Kohli's first tour in South Africa, Murli Vijay again, second tour for him, but scored 20 odd runs in 3 innings in 2010. So the way they left the ball, the way they scored runs, Ajinkya Rahane, how can I forget Ajinkya Rahane? I mean, Dale Steyn really does not think a lot of Ajinkya Rahane, from the way he bowled at Ajinkya Rahane, the way he tried to get under his skin. But I think after these 2 Test matches, he'll think a lot of Ajinkya Rahane. Rahane has given a great example of what he's capable of. It's a pity that he was not able to, get himself in the side. Not because, there are a lot of people talking about, because of the senior batsmen not really saying goodbye sooner. people like Rahane and Kohli and Pujara have been missing their chance. But no, if you look at it, India have been searching for a number six since Saurav Ganguly retired. So Raina and Yuvraj and all these people have been given a lot of chances, and they haven't really taken them up. But Rahane, he goes abroad and he plays two test matches and he gets a 50 and gets a 90 and gets another almost 50. So he's given a good example of what he can do. We have a lot of India has a lot of overseas test matches coming in over the next year, over 2014, leading up to the 2015 World Cup. So I think we have got a very good nucleus of the side. Zahir Khan is back. He ran out of gas in the second test match a bit, but yeah, that really happens. That pitch was not really, something the Indian bowlers would have liked. Even the South African bowlers didn't like that. So for Indian bowlers to find that sort of a pitch, a subcontinental pitch when you go to South Africa, that was a bit of a culture shock for them. Apart from that, I would say, with Ravindra Jadeja coming in, taking 6 wickets, I personally think Ashwin should not have been dropped in that match, but now he's been dropped or he's been made to sit out. He's still the number one spinner India has got. But with Jadeja taking those 6 wickets, I think that is a very vital thinking time for Ashwin, how he wants to come back and regain his place in the side, especially in overseas tests. So that's something to really watch out for. He'll be really pumped up for the ODIs against New Zealand, because Pragya Rocha has been dropped from that squad. We'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But yes, the Durban Test, it was King Kallis' last test match. A privilege really to have seen him play, and obviously a bigger privilege to see him score his 100 in the last test match. 2 legends have retired in my last 2 test series that I've covered. So not really great going, considering the coverage. But yes, great to see him the way he batted. Never really changed his gears. That's the way he's batted throughout his career. South Africa were in a bit of a bother when he came into bat, and he had a good partnership with A.B. de Villiers and put South Africa in a commanding position. And then again, Dale Steyn, brilliant bowling, 6 wickets. That's what number one bowlers do. I mean, the world's number one bowlers can do. He took wickets after 180 odd overs without a wicket, and he took wickets through sheer willpower. It was not happening much off the pitch in that first innings or in the second innings. A couple of decisions went against India, yes, but that's how cricket is, especially when there is no aid for the third umpire. But apart from that, I think a good performance from India. India can be proud of what they achieved in South Africa, especially in the test matches. South Africa will be disappointed they didn't win 2-0, but I think 1-0 just served their purpose as good. And like I said, a pity that we couldn't have a third test match in Cape Town. Really set it up for a third test match, but we didn't have that, And obviously, a word about Nelson Mandela. We saw some epic cricket, some really good celebration, especially on the pink day on the first ODI. But then the sad news of his demise, and the whole country really mourned him, and it just showed how much he meant to South Africa as a country, as a nation. So yeah, it's been a memorable tour. Saw a little bit of everything, and some really good memories.
Indeed, Chetan, I echo your words on Nelson Mandela. It wasn't just the whole South African country mourning him; it was very much the whole world. Even over here, small villages putting South African flags up. It really just showed what he meant to so many people. Just to close on this South Africa-India, I believe before the Test series started, you said if India were to lose 1-0, that wouldn't be the worst thing because it's about developing players ahead of this massive 2014. Would you sort of say in a way that despite the series defeat, it was mission accomplished?
Absolutely, I think there was a certain something that the Indian team wanted to achieve out of this particular Test series. Considering you have no more Al Dravid, you have no more VVS Lakshman, you have no more Harbhajan Singh, Anil Kumble, or now Sachin Tendulkar is gone from the scene as well. So really, India's transition is over. Look at the senior players. Who's the senior most figure in batting? You have MS Dhoni, who has a circumspect technique when playing overseas. You have Virat Kohli and Cheteshwar Pujara, who are the brightest sparks. But otherwise, the batting there is no experience in that batting lineup. I mean, you're talking about 30 If you take three individuals who've played 10 years each, you're talking about 30 years of experience going out. Different players have different experiences. But a combined experience of 25 years. The strength of India's batting was the number of matches. It's three core batsmen or four core batsmen had played over the years, and then you also take out Gautam Gambhir and Virendra Sehwag, an explosive partnership, a gritty opener in Gambhir, and an explosive dashing batsman, Virendra Sehwag, who could change matches just like that. I mean, Shikhar Dhawan not really up to the Sehwag level just as yet. So you're talking about a whole batting lineup which is starting from scratch. And Kohli has done well. He has a lot of confidence, but again, he's coming to bat at number 4, and whoever bats at number 4 for India, that's a lot of pressure. Following up from Sachin Tendulkar's footsteps, and he gets 100 and a 90 or almost 200s, something that even Sachin didn't achieve throughout his career. Almost 200s, I'm talking about. I'm not comparing him with Sachin. I don't think he can be compared ever to anyone, but I'm just talking about the fact that there's a lot of pressure on this young batting lineup. And to come away, they played the first test match, they almost won it, or they were in a dominant position 4 out of the 5 days. In the second test match, they were dominant on the first day. When bad light happened, if we had played that third session, probably India would have been 250 for 1, or maybe 250 odd for 2. So that's a very good position to be in, considering the fact that we bowled out for 330 odd. The fact of the matter is that these batsmen gave a very, very good account. They had 2 bad sessions, one on day 2 and one on day 5 of the second test match, and that's why they lost the second test match. Apart from that, the Indian bowlers, if you look at, you have a base where Mohammad Shami is bowling well. You have Zahir Khan, who's come back and who's guiding these bowlers, and if he can stay on till the Australia tour or maybe 2015 World Cup as well, if he can just manage his workload, and the Indian bowling lineup could really learn a lot from him. And apart from that, you have Ravindra Jadeja, who's given you another option overseas, because India really just wants to play the one test match, one spinner. So yeah, that's something really good for Indian cricket as a whole.
Let's just stay with Test cricket as we look ahead to the tour of New Zealand with 5 ODIs to start with. But India's Test squad's not, well, I think only one real change. Pragyan Oja out, you touched on that a little bit earlier. Spin not expected to play as key a role in New Zealand. Ishwar Pandey, young fast bowler coming in, hasn't played an awful lot of cricket, but has obviously impressed the selectors. Just tell us what you know about him. Why has he been picked to go to New Zealand and get an opportunity?
Well, I think the conditions in New Zealand are a little more favourable to swing bowling or seam bowling, as the case may be, than in South Africa. Because in South Africa, you need high pace to swing the ball or get the ball moving around. That's not the case in New Zealand. At New Zealand, even a Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who was not very useful in South Africa, he'll be very useful, very handy in New Zealand. Small ground, obviously, and obviously it's also about trying new bowlers out. I think Ishwar Pandey has done well in the Ranji Trophy for the last 1.5 seasons. He was in the Irani Trophy in 2013 when I saw him in January. I met him, and he had done very, very well. And he's somebody who has a good high arm, open chest action, and his natural length is just pitching the ball short of length. He works up a little good pace. He's somewhere between Umesh Yadav and Ishant Sharma, around 85, 86, 87 miles per hour. So I think going to New Zealand, giving him a first experience, he bowled well in the South Africa A tour as well for India A in September. So giving him an experience ahead of the T20 World Cup and England and Australia is just, the selectors have done well to try out a lot of young bowlers, young batsmen. Now they're doing the same with the young bowlers. And I think New Zealand is a very, very good opportunity for Ishwar Pandey. And if he gets to play a couple of ODIs, probably he'll be able to make a mark ahead of the Test series. I really want him to play a Test match in New Zealand. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible because you have Shami, Ishan, Zahir, Bhuvneshwar, Umesh. So I'm not sure if it's going to be possible. But just to get the experience there, I think that is going to be very, very vital. Again, like I said, Pragyan Oja dropped. So spin options. You just have Ashwin and Pragyan Oja. So it's going to be a big, big toss-up. When the Auckland Test match comes in. But also, I think it's a nice balance that India is trying to achieve. And again, if Zahir Khan runs out of gas, again, Ishwar Pandey is someone who gets an opportunity. So a nice mix. I think the team is very, very balanced. Even the ODI team with Stuart Binney coming in and Yuvraj Singh going out, you need a batsman at number 6 and number 7, and you need somebody who can bowl those 5 or 6 extra overs. This is also something that could prove useful ahead of the T20 World Cup, because Stuart Binney is a very handy IPL player for the Rajasthan Royals. So I would take Stuart Binney to the T20 World Cup in Bangladesh or wherever it might be held. So probably the selectors, just pitching in a couple of players for the future, not the near future, not a long-term future, especially in Binney's case. But Ishwar Pandey is one to watch out for the future, surely.
Do you think Yuvraj has possibly paid the price for, okay, only got one innings in South Africa, didn't sort of perform there, but certainly a lack of runs against Australia? Or are you sort of saying that Binney is being picked as a short-term, almost horses for courses? He'll get a few overs of medium pacing, which could prove useful in New Zealand?
Well, yes, medium pace is there, but also Yuvraj hadn't scored a lot of runs against Australia, against West Indies, in these two matches here as well. So time does run out. He's not getting any younger. Probably, considering the fact that the World Cup is next year in Australia, New Zealand, probably Stuart Binney is somebody they would want to try out. I mean, this is, the squad that is going there for ODIs. I would think, 15 or 16 of, I mean, at least 11 or 12 of these 16-man squad will be going there next year. Maybe 1 or 2 places up and down. You maybe Cheteshwar Pujara. I can't imagine Cheteshwar Pujara not going on to the World Cup. I would really want to wrap it up quickly because I think my power source is running out, John. But at this moment, I would say selection of Stuart Binney is not only a step towards the T20 World Cup, but also the World Cup next year. Just giving yourselves more options. When I said short term, I did not mean just 2 months, next coming 2 months, but also.
And it looks as if... Oh, no. Are you still with us, Chetan? Looks as if Power Source has indeed just given way on him. So just about got to the end of his point about Stuart Binney being given an opportunity ahead of the 2015 World Cup. Good time for New Zealand, about a year ahead out of the World Cup there as well. So fingers crossed we can sort of get out there in New Zealand in a similar sort of way that we did when he was in South Africa. So it does mean that he's not able to give his view on the Ashes. He was teasing me a little bit earlier on, but to watch a little bit of Ashes review, Alistair Simonson and myself did a programme a little bit earlier in the day. That should be ready for you shortly. So from Chetan on his behalf, he's obviously out there in India, which is a shame. Goodbye from him. Goodbye from me. Thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year, if you're still sort of celebrating in any shape or form, and do join us again soon on Cricket World TV.